A day to remember for the rest of your lives.
There's a great promise for all of you.
The Pro Football Hall of Fame and Extreme Networks present the Heart of a Hall of Famer program. With nearly 100 Hall of Famers participating, we have reached 48 states around this country, sharing the message that football is more than a game and can teach Americans how to huddle up during a time when we need to be united.
It's time for America to take a real deep dive. Not at no one else, but at yourself individually. If you want to change America, don't brush your teeth with your head down. Look at who you are and be the example. Be the example.
An opportunity to meet and learn from one of the greatest football players of all time. But more than that, the chance to see that their Hall of Fame life wasn't given to them. Single-parent homes, drug-infested neighborhoods, and poverty.
I grew up in a neighborhood that was considered one of the worst in America, and the household I grew up in was one of the worst in that neighborhood. By the time I was 20 years old, I knew at least 30 friends or family members who had lost their lives. Football became like a second parent to me. It taught me the things that my father wasn't there to teach me, and that my mother, as a struggling, single-parent woman, just didn't know to teach me.
But they learn how to live a life of character before pursuing their football careers. Today, you will learn you can do the same that they once did. Making good decisions can lead to a prosperous life both on and off the field. Your game for life has already begun. It's your decision whether or not you want to be a successful student, son, daughter, brother, or sister.
Every one of you can have a Hall of Fame life whether or not you play football. You can be as great as you want to be. The Hall of Fame is all about integrity, character, and excellence. You have the opportunity to represent yourself that way. You determine your character.
Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime program, The Heart of a Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer Gil Brandt.
Mr. Baker.
Welcome to Canton, Ohio.
Thank you. This is the greatest thrill of my life, and I just hope I can uphold what the Pro Football Hall of Fame stands for. I'm lucky to be involved in this great enterprise, and I thank all these coaches and players on the staff that we've worked with all the time. I'm so proud of being a part of a continuing impact of the National Football League. Thank you again to the Hall of Fame voters for this incredible honor. And thank you for every one of you who's here today and the millions of Cowboy fans all over the world. And thank you so much to all the fine people of Canton, Ohio for having me here today. Thank you very much.
Minutes south of Indianapolis, Indiana, where right now the NFL Combine is going on, where the future generation, the generations that guys like Mr. Brandt paved the way for, will one day hopefully get that same jacket and that same ring. My name is Jake Ray. I'm the Youth and Education Manager at the Pro Football Hall of Fame over in Canton, Ohio. I'll be moderating the session today here with Mr. Brandt. Our mission at the Pro Football Hall of Fame is to honor the heroes of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence everywhere. And those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence, all of which we're going to talk about today, and that have affected both your life, both within the football career and off the field as well. But before we turn things over to some opening remarks here from our featured guest, just a few thank yous I want to send out. First and foremost, I'd like to thank our partners at Extreme Networks. You know, without their help and their assistance in this program today, it doesn't happen. They do a lot of great things for us at the Pro Football Hall of Fame and do a lot of great things for schools across the country as well. Secondly, I'd like to thank our students and staff here at Franklin Community High School for allowing us to come into your school today on a short notice, but allowing us to come here today and host this program. I'd like to thank our teachers and administrators, not only here at school, but all the other schools we have tuning in as well. Appreciate you allowing to come into your classroom today. And lastly, I'd like to thank our students. You know, without you guys today, this program doesn't happen. It doesn't take place. You guys are going to be the ones asking questions today. You guys are driving the program. So I'm interested to see how the program goes, some of the questions you guys might have. I'm sure Mr. Brandt as well. So without further ado, let's turn things over to our Hall of Famer in gold jacket, Mr. Gil Brandt.
Thank you, Jake. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm going to surprise you all a little bit. A friend of mine had a golf course right down the street here. The honors course, I don't think that's quite the right name of it, a fellow by the name of Bob Knight. So I've been out here and played golf out here many a times with Coach Knight and watched how far he could throw that golf club when he got mad and hit a bad shot. But let me kind of reflect how I became a member of the Dallas Cowboys. Tex Schramm, who is a very innovative and creative person, called me one time in 1959, and at the time he was in charge of CBS sports programming and about to put on the Winter Olympics in Squaw Valley. And he called me and he said, "I got a job for you." And I started laughing. I said, I don't really know anything about the television industry. He said, "No, we're going to have a football team here in Dallas. We're going to have a franchise here in Dallas, and I want you to be part of it. You're going to be in charge of player personnel, is what it is, and you'll be a committee of one or a team of one." And our team was horrible to start with. We started the first season 0-11-1 because we didn't get to participate in the draft. Excuse me, like all these schools or all these teams that come in now, and so we after, and I want to emphasize this to you: don't ever stand still. The people that stand still get passed by. So no matter how good you think you're doing, always look for new ways and new things to do, increase your ability to make more money and create a better world to live in. And so what we did in 1961, we went to various companies, Delta Airlines, UPS, and kind of asked them, "What do you see in the future?" And everybody said computers. And so we started a computer program in 1961, and we had an IBM 360 that was about twice as big as the screen here and didn't have the total capacity of the laptop that you have today, is what it amounted to. And we really thought we were making good progress. And in 1964, we were at the draft in Chicago, and the player that we wanted to draft, Mel Renfro, had put his hand through the mirror of his apartment when he heard the news of the assassination of President Kennedy. And so we weren't sure. Here we are thinking about getting a running back or a wide receiver, and you don't know if his hand's okay or wrist is okay or not. So we ended up sending a doctor, Dr. Slocum, down from Portland, Oregon to Eugene, Oregon, to give a physical to Mel Renfro. And what took place is that about 3 hours after this holdup, the draft now you have to pick every 15 minutes in the first round. Then it goes down to 5 rounds, 5 minutes when we get to the last day. But anyway, a fellow by the name of Vince Lombardi walked up to me and he said, "What's wrong, Gil? Did your computer break down?" I said, "No, Vince, it's running and running well." He said, "I never liked those things anyway." And about 3 years later, to show you how things progress, he came up and he said, "You know, I think I'd like to be in that computer program with you." I said, "Well, Vince, if you want to write us a check for $3 million, we'll bring you in." He said, "I'm not quite that interested." And so this is how the Cowboys started. We tried to do everything that was different than people had done it. And as I said, what took place, we went into industry and we saw people like A&P, which I don't think anybody here remembers. A&P at one time was the leading food broker in the world. and they refused to remove from the inner cities, and they got swept out of business. Montgomery Ward was the same thing. And that's what my emphasis is. You as students here today, don't stand still. You've got to keep going and finding new ways to create in things. Don't ever say, well, we did it last week or last year, this week, and we made the playoffs as your football team did, I guess, this year. Don't ever stop at that point is what it was. And so what happened in those days, and again, some of these players were born, were finished playing before you were born. But in 1961, I drafted a player named Bob Lilly. Bob Lilly was our first round draft choice, and we paid him a $12,000 contract, a $4,000 signing bonus. Right now, players like Lilly are making $17 million a year. And so our business has grown by leaps and bounds, is what it amounted to. And it's because of the television industry, because of the quality of the product that we put out there, that they've grown so much. And so in talking about things that you want to do to improve and get it done, frankly, quickly, it was this. We all of a sudden now we've gone from paying $15,000 or $12,000 a year salary to paying $30,000 a year, and we're now really worried about the health of a player. And before we would call the team trainer and say, you know, what about his knee operation? What is it okay? And that was it. And so there was a player by the name of Nolan Cromwell, and this took place in February of 1977, 43 years ago. Nolan Cromwell was coming to visit our building in Dallas to get a physical. And so about 8 o'clock in the morning, I hooked up with Nolan, and he had about 14 envelopes of x-rays underneath his arm, and he looked like he hadn't slept in a week. And I said, Nolan, where have you been? He said, well, I just took the red eye from Seattle to Dallas, and I'm here to go, and tomorrow I'm going to Philadelphia. And I said to myself, there's got to be a better way to do something than the way we're doing it. And this is going back to what I'm talking about, finding better ways to improve of what you're doing today. And that will lead to success, believe me when I tell you that, is what it is. So anyway, we organized the first combine, which is taking place here in Indianapolis now for the next 9 days, or from last Sunday through Monday. And we'll have 337 players here. We'll probably have an average of 100 people from every club. So we have 32 teams. We'll probably have 3,200 people here just to look at it, these players, interview these players. But the main focus of what we did in starting this combine was to try to find out physically what a player lacked, or how serious his injury was, or whatever it may be. And from this start, we grew from 4 teams doing it: the Dallas Cowboys, the Los Angeles Rams, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Oakland Raiders, to now all the 32 do it. We had 50 players there to start with. Now we have 337 players, and we have pro days. I don't know how many of you are familiar with pro days. Every college, as an example, Miami of Ohio, everybody has off-season programs. And at the end of their off-season program, they will have a pro day in which probably 25 or 30 teams will visit these pro days to find out if there's any sleepers, any people that jump out at you that nobody knew about, that hopefully can be a free agent that makes an impact in the National Football League, is what it is. So the National Football League, and I emphasize it this way because I have a ranch in Montana. I say it's kind of like it used to be like a 1-story motel in some remote town in Montana, and it's now the Sears Tower and still growing. It's just unbelievable the impact the National Football League has on the economy of this country. We have players now that are making quarterbacks upward of $35 million a year. As I said, going back to Lilly, I think Roger Staubach, who was a great player for us and is a hero of this world, I think during his career with the Cowboys made a little under $2 million. His whole career. So now we're talking about money that's astronomical is what it is. And so I hope that we can share, and I hope you have some questions about what the Combine is all about, how it works, any people in pro football that might be future stars, but anything that you would like to talk about, we'll answer those questions.
I think it's a perfect segue. So you guys may not know that Combine that's going on right up the road. This guy right here had a huge hand in not only getting it started, but turning it into what it is today. Now a primetime event that you all can watch on TV starting tomorrow night. So with that, we're going to start with some students right here for our first question. So go ahead, stand up, state your name, your grade, and then go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, I'm Rachel Pinnock. I'm a senior here, and I was wondering, how do you feel the NFL has grown by basing its scouting system off of the one you helped create?
Now, Rachel, I heard her name, but
out of everything that you created, how do you feel that the NFL has changed or grown because of something that you helped start, or finding those guys who may not have a chance?
Oh yeah, well we had great success with free agents because of the program that we put in to try to test athletes, and one of the things that we went into with the computer was we had to find out what a player was made of. And we find out that there were 4 characteristics or 5 characteristics that were foreign to every player, no matter what position he played. Now, we had to adjust the weights, Rachel, to find out who ranked the highest. And by that, I'm saying mental alertness is one of the criteria. And let's say that you have a quarterback that has a 7 in mental alertness and a 2 in strength and explosion for a total of 9 points. And then now you have some big off defensive linemen. That's a 5 and a 5 and a 5, 5 strength and 5 in strength and explosion, but less than the 9 points, but more than the 10. But because of the fact that so much emphasis was put on a certain characteristic that led to success or failure in the past, that was very helpful in us selecting players. And we have players from small black schools, Elizabeth City Teachers College. The first player that I signed was a player from Johnson C. Smith College. And we just went in there and had like a little miniature pro day and found this guy. And I gave him a $500 signing bonus, and he played for us for 13 years. He's now a millionaire. He owns a bunch of Burger Kings and an oil transport company. So I'm so proud of the people that we've had, that we brought into our organization that played well.
All right, now we do have students tuning in throughout the country, as well as people watching on Facebook Live. So you're watching us on Facebook Live, feel free to put a comment in there with a question for Gil, and we'll try our best to make it part of the program. But we're gonna go out to Village Elementary over in New York for our first question. So go ahead, have a student step up to the microphone and then ask their question.
Okay, first. Early birthday, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
My name is Calvin, and my question is, did you ever have a time when you had to make another plan? And my question is,
oh, we have another one?
We're not doing too well in New York.
So did you ever have time when you had to make another plan? Was there ever time when you had something, you had your mind set on that plan A, and then you had to resort to plan B?
Not really. We thought that we had a pretty good plan to start with, and we just kept getting better, adding more information to it, and becoming much better. You see, what took place with the computer, and it's the most unbelievable thing of all time. But when I started, as I said, in 1961 with the computer, we had this big IBM 320, I think it was, and it had no capacity at all. If I asked to print something out, it would take 5 minutes. Now you can, score 600.
It's all right here.
Yeah, it's right there is what it is. So no, we just tried, and the emphasis that I've tried to these young people today is say, don't stand still, keep going forward. Don't be like A&P and go out of business because you said, well, we're doing this. We felt that whatever we did in 1975, we had to do better in 76. We won 5 Super Bowls in 10 years, or we played in 5 Super Bowls in 10 years' time, is what we did. So we had a team that had 20 consecutive winning seasons in the National Football League. It's really hard to do that if you don't change and become better at what you're doing.
You mentioned about having those sustained success and those winning seasons, and it's not just because of those guys who get taken in the top 10 of the first round. It's what people today would call those late round gems. Do you have a particular player that stands out to you that you go, you know what, that was my guy. That was the guy I took in the 10th, 11th round that nobody believed in that ended up having a great career?
Well, I tell you, the guy that's probably, first of all, we had a bunch. But the guy that's most comes to my mind is a fellow by the name of Bob Hayes. And Bob Hayes was a backup running back at Florida A&M. And we drafted him in the, 10th round or 11th round, about 3 o'clock in the morning in Chicago, Illinois. And we said, we're going to convert you to a wide receiver. And he is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame today. He is one of the top 100 players in this country, or in this league of all time, is what he is. And so I would say he's one of my favorite players. But all of these players, and I've got thousands of them, they're kind of all like youngsters to me, my own family. And I'll share with you something about happened with Bob Hayes just the other night. I'm on a committee to pick the Black College Football Hall of Famers every year. We pick 5 or 6 people. And so we just had to meet our convention or meeting in Atlanta this past weekend. And about 4:30 in the afternoon, before this 6 o'clock start, a very well-dressed Afro-American came up to me and he said, I know you from someplace. What's your name? And I said, Gil Brandt, Tokyo 1964. And Ralph Boston was the first man in history to jump 27 feet. Won 3 different Olympic medals, is what it was. But we've had players from Johnson C. Smith. We've had players from Fort Valley State. We have a player named Rayfield Wright. That was a basketball player and a safety at Fort Valley State, who's in the Hall of Fame today. And so we had a lot to be thankful for identifying players, but we also had coaches that spent time to develop players to become better at what they did.
You mentioned, taking guys who weren't football stars. Bob Hayes was a track athlete. Rayfield Wright was a basketball player. What attracted you?
The Pro Football
Hall of Fame. Stop for 1 minute. On one of our Super Bowl teams, we had five basketball players, college basketball players, that never played a game of football on our football team. So we were able to go out through this system that we created and identify people from other sports that would be possibly basketball players. And we signed a player who, by the name of Johnson from Indiana, and he was there just before Coach Knight got there. And what happened is that he didn't make our team as an offensive tackle. And the Cincinnati Bengals, your team, I guess, was very interested in him and made him a defensive lineman. And he led their team in sacks for 4 years. So we had great success with track people. We had great success with basketball players. We even had a baseball player from Ohio State. At 1 year, the all Big Ten backfield All Big Ten outfield was 2 football players and a guy named Wade Manning who never played football. And we signed Wade Manning, and Wade Manning went on to come in and play 8 or 9 years in the National Football League. The other 2 guys, one guy's named Gibson, went on to play baseball.
So it's a huge thing that happens today. You see guys like Jimmy Graham, Antonio Gates, who may one day have that gold jacket on, who were predominantly basketball players. Tony Gonzalez, who just got his gold jacket. You know, basketball players first.
We like to be copied.
Hey, that's not bad, right?
No.
So we're going to go to our next school now. We're going to go back to my neck of the woods in Canton, Ohio, to McKinley High School for our next question. So whenever you're ready, have your students step up to the microphone, state their name, and then ask their question.
Ask the question.
Oh, go ahead, Jairus.
Hello?
Okay, go ahead, Jairus.
Who is your current favorite NFL player?
Well, my current favorite NFL player, I think, is probably the quarterback out there at Kansas City, who is my current favorite player. But I tell you, there's so many great players in the National Football League today that you've got to like them all. But I would say he's probably my current favorite, just because of the fact of what he has done. You know, he was not highly recruited, and only, I think, had 1 scholarship offer out of high school from the Texas Tech, and then had 2 quarterbacks drafted ahead of him in the first round. And this guy has come on and won 75% of his games in a Super Bowl before he's 26 years of age.
You spent a lot of time, a lot of our Hall of Famers are guys who spend their time on the field, in between the white lines, 4 downs, whatever it is, on the field. You spent all your time, in the front office. What kind of led you to get involved in the player scouting business? And how did you become, figure out, like, this is what I want to do for my career?
Well, I think everybody has a vision, and I hope you have a vision and goals. And it's one thing important about goals. Be sure to set reasonable goals and outstanding goals. And that way, if you just have outstanding goals and you don't reach those goals, you're disappointed. But ever since I was about in 9th grade, I wanted to be a football person. And I lived in Wisconsin, and the Green Bay Packers were my favorite team. And, like everybody grows up, they've got something they want to do. They want to be the president of the United States, or a U.S. senator, or a bank president, or whatever it may be. And I wanted to be involved in football. And I wanted to be involved in football. And I told my father, I said, someday I'm going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And fortunately, this last year, I was voted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I implore everybody here that if you have an opportunity to be anywhere near Canton, Ohio, to go to the Hall of Fame, it's the greatest experience that you'll ever have in your life. It is so unbelievable to see what football has become. It's kind of like this area right here, this school right here. I don't think 40 years ago anybody thought they would ever have a high school that has all these amenities that this high school has. But it grew, and here we are, and 10 years from now, we'll even have a better one.
Yeah. So you mentioned, becoming a member of the Hall of Fame, and a lot of, as everybody sees today, when you get enshrined into the Hall of Fame, you get that Hager gold jacket that you have on so nicely, so elegantly. You get the K Jewelers Ring of Excellence that you're supporting too. But kind of that most iconic piece is that bronze bust that's going to last in Canton for over 40,000 years. David Baker, our president, talks about, it's a team that you can never be cut from. You will always be a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So right now, I think
traded from
or traded. That's right. So right now, I think we got one of my team members, Jim McChrist, back at the Hall of Fame in a gallery in a place that might look a little bit familiar to you. So Jim, are you there?
I am, Jake. Welcome everybody to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm here in the Hall of Fame gallery. As you can see, it is surrounded right now by bronze busts. Now, how hard is it to get one of these bronze busts? Check us out. They say there have been over 300 million people to play football at all levels throughout history. Now, those 300 million, only 5 million ever went on to play college. From that 5 million, 27,000 went on to play, coach, or administer the game of football. And from that 27,000, only 346 can call themselves Hall of Famers, including Mr. Gil Brandt. Brandt was highly regarded personnel administrator during his 29-year career at the Dallas Cowboys. The vice president of player personnel for the Cowboys, he helped Dallas grow into one of the most powerful and popular sports franchises in America. His innovative management and personnel system are standard operating procedure today. Brandt oversaw the drafting of 9 Cowboy players who are now enshrined here at the Hall of Fame, beginning with their first ever pick in 1960, defensive tackle Bob Lilly, and culminating with his final first-round pick in 1989, a guy you might recognize, Troy Aikman. That list includes a pair of 7th-round selections, Rayfield Wright and Bob Hayes, and a 10th draft choice in Roger Staubach. Brandt was the first one to use computers for scouting and talent evaluations, the first one to use psychological tests to evaluate the mental makeup under pressure. It was the way the Cowboys graded college prospects that led to the building of the NFL scouting combine and streamlined the evaluation process. So, Jake, as you can tell, Gil Brandt has a career well deserving of a bust right here in Canton.
Jim.
Thank you very much.
So you see that bronze bust, you know, you get to come to Canton and be a part of that enshrinement ceremony. Now, and you waited a pretty long time for David Baker to come knock on that door. So what was that moment like when you were in Atlanta, when David finally knocked on that door and you found out you remember the Hall of Fame?
Well, it was an unbelievable situation. We were supposed to be in a room, and David was going to either call, you were going to receive a call by 2:30 if you hadn't made it, and David was going to be there by 3 o'clock and knock on your door. And so 3 o'clock came and went, and 3:15 came and went, and I didn't hear anything, whether I was in or out. And I reached over and I picked up my cell phone. I've got an old flip phone that's about 100 years old, it seems like. And I found out my battery was dead. and just about then, he knocked on the door. And it meant so much to my wife and my family. My wife was pictured here opening the door, and I have a son that it meant so much to. The Hall of Fame to me, and even before I was inducted, I was very active in it. I was back for every Hall of Fame for about 20 years because it was so special. And I just enjoy so much going back there to see all these people, the Dan Marinos and the people that you read about and heard about, the John Elways and coaches like Bill Belichick, who's not in the Hall of Fame but will be. And it's a special place, and if you ever get an opportunity, go there. But set your goals high, and in the end, if you work hard and stay out of trouble, you got a good chance of reaching it.
Now you've got probably, I'm just going to guess you probably got to do some pretty cool things throughout your life and got to be a part of some pretty cool events. Now that you have that gold jacket, has there been something you've gotten to do now that you have that gold jacket on that you wouldn't have gotten to do before that stands out to you as a cool moment?
Well, I get a few free meals.
Hey.
It's unbelievable, Jake. What happens, I go in the grocery store and somebody says, "You're Gil Brandt." And I go to the filling station and the lady walks up and says, "Are you Gil Brandt?" But it's just, it has so much pride for me. Number 321. It's unbelievable. And one of the things that I have done is I have a very, very good friend in Dallas named John Tatum.
Hi.
He's a great entrepreneur. And John, you have a party after your induction, and you kind of look for some party favors to give out. And so we were throwing all kinds of things around, and somebody said, "Well, why don't we get a bobblehead doll?" And so we got 5,000 bobblehead dolls to give out and send out. And that has been a real excitement for me.
That's cool. That's cool. So we're going to start another round of questions here. We're going to go to our students right here at Franklin High School. So go ahead and stand up, state your name, your grade, and then go ahead and ask your question.
I'm Cash Nelson. I'm a senior, and I was wondering, what was scouting like outside of the U.S.? Because that was fairly new at the time.
Well, I went to, I've done a lot of things. And one of the things I did was scouting out of the U.S. was go to Europe looking for kickers. And we took a fellow along with us that was a soccer coach in Austria. And he was supposed to show me the lay of the land. And what took place is that we went to Vienna and tried out a kid named Tony Frisch. And Tony Frisch was a world hero in Austria, because only time that Austria has beaten England in the World Cup was Frisch was 19 years old and kicked 2 field goals or kicked 2 field goals to win. And so I told the gentleman that I was with, I said, now whatever we do, we got to find out what we need to do to get him out of this country. This is like trying to take Babe Ruth or out of the United States. And I said, for whatever you do, please don't tell anybody we're doing this. And I went up to the soccer hotel there in Vienna and laid down to sleep, and my phone rang, and this guy says, Brandt. I said, what do you want, Mr. Cap? He says, you have to come down here to the lobby right away. He said, the journalists want to talk to you. I said, the journalists for what? You have to tell them about the signing of the Tony Frisch. And and here I am. So I had to play dumb. I said, well, I have no authority to sign anybody. But it's a really good question. We went to a lot of places looking for players, and we found some. And it's going to be a fertile ground because there's so much interest in football now, thanks to the National Football League in Europe and some of those countries, Germany, England, Norway. They all have players coming out of their country. And we have about 10 that are in the National Football League now that didn't play college football in the United States, but are a product of European football.
Yeah, the game is growing faster than ever and becoming more popular than ever. So, like you said, that is going to continually be a huge improvement to have a worldwide reach within those players in the game. So we're going to go back to our Village Elementary over there in New York for our next question. So whenever you're ready, have a student step up to the microphone and go ahead and ask your question.
Happy birthday. Take your hand away from your
I think they just cut it. All right. So the nice thing about technology is it's great when it works, and it's not so great when it doesn't work. So we're going to kind of shift gears a little bit. You've mentioned a lot about working for the Dallas Cowboys and spending a majority of your career within the game of football, 29 years with the organization. You see, guys today who play in the game, are jumping from team to team. It's hard to really find that guy who, you see like an Aaron Rodgers who's been with the Packers his entire career. It's hard to find those in the NFL anymore. What was it like for you to be with that organization for your entire career with an NFL team?
Well, let me give you this information. The best is not always the best. A lot of times people change jobs for $2,000 a year. A lot of times people leave school early because they could go to work at McDonald's for $15 an hour or whatever it may be. And so I think that you have to be very careful that when you go someplace that that the check is going to be good, and that you got a future. Because if you go someplace that's shaky background and it might pay you a little bit more money. I was offered a job in the USFL, and they offered me about twice as much as what I was making with the Dallas Cowboys. And they painted this rosy picture, and I said, here's what you do. You deposit that money in the bank for me, and you take the interest on it. I just want to be sure that when my Social Security payments come, that I've been taken care of. And no problem at all. I never heard from them again.
Well, I think it turned out pretty well. You ended up with one of those gold jackets on. We got a Facebook question here that I think is pretty interesting from Patrick. He said, is there a player that throughout your career that you regretted not drafting?
There's a lot of I regret not drafting, I'll tell you that. you know, sometimes you wanted to draft players. You know, Joe Green is an example. I thought that we had hit him pretty well, and all of a sudden Joe Green was picked in the first round. Is what it was. Quarterbacks, we really loved some quarterbacks that turned out to be pretty good. We also liked a few that didn't turn out very well. But yes, you always regret it. And what really happens is Lynn Swann and Jack Ham, two members of the Hall of Fame, they were our choices in the first round. And we didn't think a lot of people thought of Lynn Swann as a first round pick. And what happened is the Pittsburgh Steelers took him right ahead of us. There was a guy named Jack Lambert. If you remember him, he's also in the Hall of Fame.
Sounds like it's this Pittsburgh connection.
He weighed 195 pounds. He was a linebacker at Kent State and went on to have a great Hall of Fame career. Jack Ham was the same way, was picked right ahead of us. And, you know, it makes you sick, is what it does.
It sounds
but,
like
that's how the world works, and you just have to do something better to catch up.
You know, with technology today, and you know the want in our site to get that inside scoop and to get that inside look, you're seeing more and more videos from draft day, from the war room, and everything that goes on in there to kind of see, the celebration when a guy does fall and they get the guy that they want. And, the phone calls with these college kids when they get drafted. What's the atmosphere like in a war room on draft day?
Well, first of all, let's go back just a little bit. When I came into the league, we had film, and it was on 1,600-foot reels. And we finally got smart, and we said, we can put offense on 400-foot reels. We can put defense on 400-foot reels. And then we had to splice all the time because the sprockets broke it, and you carried this big Bell and Howell projector around with you is what it is. And, today, what you can do is you can walk into that video operator of ours and say, I want to see all of the 3rd and 10 plays that took place in the second half of the football game throughout the first 6 games of the season. It's just unbelievable what we can do and what we can ask for. And that's what our world's coming to. I mean, boy, if you don't stay up to it, and this world changes every day. I read a story in the Harvard Business Review about 10 years ago, and they talked about the curve of learning. And they said from 1750 to 1900, the curve of learning never changed. Then it changed in 1940. It'll change 3 times between year 2000 and 2010, which simply meant you had to be 3 times as smart in 10 years, as opposed to going 150 years without changing.
And technology, like you said, it's one of those things that definitely has changed the game, and it's not only giving the fan more access, it's not so much made it easier, but made it a lot more convenient to, like you said, to go and say, I want to see player A on 2nd down 5 yards to go with a double team, and be able to see how to boil it down that much to see those plays.
Well, Jake, I'm from day to day, it passes me by, so to speak. I just can't believe all of the things that you can do better today than you did yesterday to make life easier and more efficient for you.
All right, with our next question, we're going to go back to high school in Canton, Ohio, McKinley High School. So whenever you're ready, have a student step up there to the camera and the microphone and ask your question.
Okay, go ahead, Omar. Oh, no, we know him. What advice do you have?
What advice do you have that people like the NFL that make it to like pro? What financial advices do you have for them?
Do you have any financial advice from that side of the coin? Not so much on the field and how to get be that jerk, but once you get that deposit into the bank.
Let me say it to you this way: try to get somebody to help you as a financial advisor. We used to bring people in from the outside to talk to our players about it. We have a lot of scam games going on now. A lot of people, Lou Alcindor, Kareem Jabbar was scammed for millions of dollars. But I'm very familiar with Canton McKinley High School and its history, and I see them practicing every time I come to Canton in August, because their practice field is right next to the Hall of Fame. But, you know, somehow or other, advise yourself and get somebody to help you, because it's a very complex thing. But don't spend money on foolishness. Don't buy too many cars and stereos and all of those things.
All right, we're going to go to our students right here in Franklin, Indiana for our next question. So go ahead, state your name, your grade, and then go ahead and ask your question.
So I'm Ethan Nash. I'm a senior here. As an employer, did you use character evaluation to eliminate prospects or find those who fit your needs more?
We thought that character was the most important success for our football team. We found out that people with good character find a way to get things done. And that's why now we're having all these interviews. You know, people used to kind of laugh at us many years ago when they said, you know, what difference does it make if he's got good character, bad character? We're playing football. We're not talking about character. But, you know, people with good character find a way to win. People with bad character find a way to lose. And I think a great example of it is the wide receiver Brown from Pittsburgh, who, you know, had suspect character. And I don't know how many millions of dollars that he lost through foolishness.
Is there a certain character quality that you found, maybe yourself found more prevalent than others? You know, our Hall of Fame values, we have commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence. Are one of those kind of stand out above the others?
Yeah, well, I think that I think you look for people that have good work ethic, because if you have good work ethic, then you're going to get the job done. You know, it's so important to be focused on what you need to do today. And you know, I still, as old as I am, still write up my to-do list every day when I go to work, and I just try to focus on that and stay off the telephone with foolishness. And but character, again, is just a way to stay out of trouble. Is really what it is. You know, don't let people lead you down the path that's going to get you in a lot of trouble, because, you know, in today's day, it's pretty hard to expunge things from your record. It doesn't happen anymore. You can go back now and find out what a guy got a traffic ticket in 2011 in the state of Oregon, as an example. So character is so important, and I'm glad you asked that question.
Let's pivot now a little bit to what we're, you know, starts tomorrow, the combine with this next class of draft picks. Is there a guy, doesn't matter what position, is there a guy that stands out to you as maybe that next guy, that next Patrick Mahomes, or that next difference maker in this league?
Well, I think that we have three quarterbacks that are pretty good. I think the Alabama quarterback's pretty good. I think the Oregon quarterback's pretty good. And the LSU quarterback, who's from the state of Ohio, is pretty good. My favorite in this draft is a guy named Brown, a defensive lineman from Auburn University, where my son went to school. He is, I've never quite been around somebody like him. Now, he's going to be in the top 10, but I really believe this guy has a chance to be a Reggie White. And I say this because I asked him, I said, and I like to ask people about what took place. You know, Auburn held LSU to the least amount of points of anybody this year. What did you do differently? And he went through the whole thing. He said, we changed. We had a different defense. For that week, we put a three-man line in. We did this, and this. And he's a guy that could have came out of school early last year. He has a one-year-old son. His mom works at Walmart. His father's a jailer. Again, going back to, you know, he stayed, and because of him staying, is going to probably make about $15 million more.
Yeah, he's a great athlete. Now, on the you talked about those three quarterbacks. You see about every year there's that good crop of young talent. When there's three guys like that who all have about that same skill level, how did you kind of set those three apart from each other? Or is it like, you know what, if we get one of those three, we're content with that?
Well, you know, psychological testing helps you. It's not the answer to everything, but it helps you. And I think a great example is when you have quarterbacks, and I drafted one named Sonny Gibbs, who had a great ability. The only thing about Sonny was that he liked golf more than football. And consequently, instead of working on football, he was working on golf. So if there's a way that you can find out now which of these three quarterbacks is going to work the hardest to be successful, you know, then you've got half the battle won.
And then I know a lot of people, you know, when you watch the combine on TV, it's, you know, just guys running fast, lifting heavy weights, doing all these drills that might look a little bit silly, but just to show you kind of what goes in, I probably have 30, 40 pages of results here, and this is every result from every player that was at the combine last year. And this is something that you handed over to me this morning, and this is their height, their weight, their 40 time, their arm size. So it's not just watching an event on TV. There is a lot of work that goes into, you know, scouting these players, and it's not just, you know what, I think this guy sounds like a great pick. There's a lot of work that goes into finding these next talented players in the game. So we got about a few more minutes here, just a couple more questions. I have you know, did my research here before we started today.
You've done a great job.
And so I have a list of some stuff here. So you were a member, Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2019, the Texas Sport Hall of Fame in 2015, the 22nd member of the Dallas Cowboys Ring of Honor. You helped draft 9 Hall of Famers and numerous other great players for the Dallas Cowboys.
We had 150 Pro Bowl appearances by players that I drafted.
150 Pro Bowl appearances right there. See, I didn't even find that number. And, you know, your career has spanned almost half a decade. These are all great honors. What do those honors mean to Gil Brandt, the person?
You know, I really enjoy what I'm doing, and I enjoy what I'm doing because of an opportunity to come here today and talk to this group of students. And this group of students at 4 of their high schools, I understand, around the college, around the country. And to me, I like to give back something to what I've been fortunate enough to do. And so as many times as I can to help serve food at a soup kitchen, my wife, who's great at it, we do it. That to me is almost as good a feeling as the 5 Super Bowls that we played in, and the fact that I've on the Ring of Honor, which 22 of us
22, yeah.
in the stadium, and you know, it's really interesting. I was part of building a stadium. Mr. Murkison, who was our owner at the time, called me one day and he said, "I want you to come down to my office. I got a job for you." I started laughing. I said, "Does that mean I don't work for the Cowboys anymore?" I said, "No." He said, "Come on down here." So I got down there and he handed me 5 legal pads. And I said, "Clint, I'm not a lawyer." He said, "Just listen to me." He said, "I want you to go to the last 6 stadiums that were built. And I want you to fill out that legal pad with everything good and everything bad." And so the first place I went to was Oregon. And you know, elementary things. The press box was on the east side of the field looking into the sun. That was a great experience for me, is what it was. Probably the greatest experience for me, Jake, was in May of 2018. The league established a group of us, I think there were 20 of us, to pick the top 100 players of all time in the National Football League. And believe me, when they talk about Bill Belichick, as good as he sounds, he's even better. I was on a committee with Bill Belichick, and we had some great people on that committee to come up with this top 100 players of all time, which was just, I've done so many things. I'm so fortunate and the many things I've done. So I just think, to me, that anytime I've had an opportunity to give back, and I think you know that I volunteer anytime I can for the Hall of Fame, it's important to me.
Well, we greatly appreciate that in Canton, Ohio. Anytime we can work with our Hall of Famers, our Gold Jackets, to spread that message of giving back to the community is great. Got one more question left, and this is how we end. Was one way I like to end all the programs. So we have like one great constant message, you know, to kind of leave everybody with. If you could give anybody out here watching today, it can be a student, it could be, you know, John Doe who's on his lunch break tuning in today. If you can give anybody one piece of advice to leave with today, what would that one piece of advice be?
Follow your dream. I think you follow your dream and work hard to make it happen. And if you do that, you'll be a success.
Oh, I can't think of a better way. I personally want to thank you for participating today, taking time out of, you know, a very busy schedule this week with you in Indianapolis. So thank you for taking your time coming out here today. For myself, our youth and education team at the Hall of Fame, all the way up to David Baker. We thank you for all you do for the Hall of Fame, but more importantly, all you've done for the game of football. I like to say, you know, the game that we see on TV today that we're going to watch on the Combine here these next 4 days, it would not be the same without your impact. So we greatly appreciate everything you've done for us at the Hall of Fame, everything you've done for the game, and more importantly, coming out today to spread that wisdom to these students.
And Jake, I want to thank the students that are here today to come out. It's a real treat to be in front of a group like you, and that I know a lot of you 20 years from now and 30 years from now may say, you know, Gil Brandt said that to me back in 2020.
All right, with that, let's give one last round of applause here to Gil Brandt, our Hall of Famer. For everybody that tuned in today, thank you very much. We hope, like Gil said at the beginning, we hope one day we'll see you at the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. With that, we're going to wrap up. Thank you, everybody. And like I said, hopefully one day we see you in Canton, Ohio. See you, everybody.